It's 7:30 in the evening across India. Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Global, bringing you the day's big stories from across India and the world. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh, and joining me is my colleague Kate Fisher from Washington, D.C. Good to see you, Kate.
You too, Shubhendu. Good morning. It's 9 a.m. here in Washington, D.C. and 3 o'clock in the afternoon across Central Europe. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, Russian President Vladimir Putin has warned of a real risk of nuclear war if the West escalates its involvement in the conflict in Ukraine. And here in the US, both President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump are making trips to the US southern border with Mexico, to the state of Texas, to address illegal immigration. All that coming up. Back now to you in New Delhi now, though.
India records robust 8.4% GDP growth in third quarter of 2023-24. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says fast economic growth shall help 140 crore Indians lead a better life. Giant leap for India's semiconductor mission. Plan cleared to set up 3 semiconductor fabrication plants in collaboration with Japan, Taiwan and Thailand. Russian President Vladimir Putin says Moscow ready for dialogue with the United States on strategic stability, hails Russia's military advantage against Ukraine. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi took to social media to hail India's GDP growth and said India's GDP growth of 8.4% in quarter 3 of 23-24 shows the strength of Indian economy and its potential. Our efforts, he says, will continue to bring fast economic growth, which shall help 140 crore Indians lead a better life and create a Viksit Bharat, or developed India. Meanwhile, the Union Cabinet chaired by India's Prime Minister has approved establishment of 3 semiconductor units under development of semiconductor and display manufacturing ecosystems in the country. All 3 units will start construction within the next 100 days.
देश में सेमीकंडक्टर फैब का अप्रूवल देश के लिए बहुत बड़ा निर्णायक मोड़ है ये, और आत्मनिर्भर भारत बनाने की जो संकल्प लिया है प्रधानमंत्री जी ने, उस संकल्प की बहुत बड़ी ये सिद्धि है। पहली कॉमर्शियल फैब भारत की बनेगी टाटा और पावर चिप ताइवान, इनके कोलैबोरेशन से धोलेरा स्पेशल इंडस्ट्रियल रीजन के अंदर बनेगी पहली सेमीकंडक्टर फैब।
And DD India correspondent Amritpal Singh joins us from New Delhi. Amrit, with these developments, what are the implications for India's rise in global semiconductor supply chain?
Well, India's rise in this global supply chain of the semiconductors means a tectonic shift in how the world economics plays out, as we see an increasing decoupling between US and China due to the trade tensions between them, and a rising Indian economy with its potential of strengthening the existing semiconductor ecosystem in the country, with decisions taken like the present one, the policy framework, strengthening the policy framework like the cabinet took today, and India's advantages of the supportive government policies, a concerted industry collaboration, tapping into the global markets. The present juncture provides a good push to the semiconductor ecosystem. If you look at the kind of investments that American companies, especially in electronics and semiconductors, are keen to invest in India, and a few of them have invested. So that gives a boost to the semiconductor and holds the promise of a larger tectonic shift. If I can quote Shubhendu from a report that the IITF on the semiconductor opportunities available in India, it says basically where India has the advantages is that an advanced US-India cooperation on semiconductors through the Chips for America International Technology, Security and Innovation Fund, which was agreed upon between the two sides last year, a pilot visa program to facilitate the circulation of skilled workers between US and India as a potential deliverable, advanced policy reforms to lower the cost of doing business in for semiconductor companies in India, both domestic and global, including offering tax breaks to some of the chip companies, reducing custom administration burdens, etc., and cross-sector partnerships with higher education institutions to grow India's semiconductor-ready workforce. Of course, the ongoing consultations with the private sector, both in India and the B2B collaborations. Now, that offers a huge promise to change the semiconductor trade and the ecosystem that is currently the framework in which the world operates. So I think India, with a sustained push on semiconductors, especially with the growing collaboration between India and US due to strategic reasons, is what offers the promise of a robust and a sustainable value supply chain when it comes to semiconductors. Shubhendu?
Amritpal, thank you for joining us with those updates. And among the Union Cabinet proposals is India's inaugural semiconductor fabrication plant to be established by Tata Electronics in collaboration with Taiwan's Power Chip Semiconductor Manufacturing Corp. DD India's Prasar Bharati gets us more.
It's a huge momentous occasion for India. More than $15 billion project in semiconductor, and that too from a country where a few years back nobody was talking about semiconductor. Now we are almost leading it, isn't it?
The way our Prime Minister has put a very clear focus on getting the semiconductor industry to India, developing it from scratch and getting the first commercial fab. This is something which the country has dreamt since 1962 when the first attempts were made. And today, very happy to say that the first commercial fab has been approved by Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji. This fab will be set up in a collaboration of Tata and Power Chip of Taiwan. This will be 50,000 wafers per month capacity. If you understand, this is a wafer. The work which is done on this, the way chips are fabricated on this.
We're looking forward to having that and making sure that India is on road to becoming Atmanirbhar Bharat when it comes to semiconductor. With person, this is Tapush Bhattacharya for DD India from Delhi.
And establishing decades-old development partnership between India and Mauritius, Prime Ministers from both nations jointly inaugurated the new airstrip and St. James jetty at the Aglega Island in Mauritius via video conferencing today. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Mauritian counterpart Pravin Jagannath also inaugurated 6 community development projects. These projects will strengthen maritime security and foster socio-economic development in the region. And Russian President Vladimir Putin says Moscow is ready for dialogue with the United States on strategic stability. Kate Fisher is in Washington, D.C., gives us more on this and other stories making headlines around the world. Kate, amidst geopolitical tensions, we're talking about talks and stability.
Has delivered his annual State of the Nation address, and he updated the Assembly on the war in Ukraine, nuclear capabilities and Russia's relationship with the West. The speech comes 2 weeks ahead of a presidential election. President Putin said that he is ready for dialogue with the United States on strategic stability, but he rejected any attempts to force Russia into talks.
Russia is ready for dialogue with the United States on the issue of strategic stability. Our position is clear. If you want to discuss the significant, important issue of security and stability, which is important for the entire planet, you must do so only in a single junction. Naturally, including all those aspects that affect our national interests and directly affect the security of our country.
DD India's Dasha Chernyshova sent us this report from Moscow.
Well, what Moscow is saying that it does see the destructive course of Washington against the Russian Federation. The Russian president has been talking about that for months, if not years, suggesting that the ruling elites in the US are not interested in ending the confrontation between Moscow and the West. Instead, they are, according to the Russian president, only sparking that. And it is very difficult to talk about strategic stability with the United States, which is saying that they do want to inflict a strategic defeat on Russia on the battlefield in Ukraine. So the statement of the Russian president could also be seen as an invitation for the Western countries to change their course towards the Russian Federation, because keep in mind, the Russian president was talking a lot about the development of the most sophisticated weapons that Moscow has been working on for years now, and that are now on combat duty and in use, including in Ukraine. Russian president said that should NATO troops get on the ground in Ukraine, that would inevitably lead to a potential nuclear conflict. And that is certainly not what people in Russia or beyond would like to see, because Russia is a nuclear power, but a responsible one, as the Russian politicians have been talking before, suggesting that the Russian military doctrine provides for the specific cases when the nuclear weapons could be used. And we are not there yet, but Moscow is definitely sending a message to the Western countries that Russia does have this arsenal and reminds of it.
Well, here in the US, both President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump are headed to the US's southern border with Mexico on separate trips to Texas to address illegal immigration into the country. The influx of migrants from Central and South America poses a significant challenge that could greatly influence the upcoming presidential election as both men compete for the Oval Office. DD India's Benji Haya reports from Texas.
This is the US-Mexico border. We're in Brownsville, where President Joe Biden is setting foot on Thursday. He calls the situation here and across America's southern border a crisis. A record number of illegal migrants crossing into the United States in December of last year. Almost 3 million of them encountered by border officials throughout 2023. And we've seen hundreds queuing just on the Mexican side, waiting to get into the US in the coming hours and days. For Joe Biden, this trip is damage control. Yes, the White House says there will be stronger border security and asylum measures imposed soon. But immigration remains a top priority for many voters, and that is being pounced upon by none other than Donald Trump, the former president, the man who's the front runner to take on Joe Biden for the White House again in November of this year. He has his own trip planned, also on Thursday, a couple of 100 kilometers in that direction at another border town in Eagle Pass. And he, of course, during his run for the presidency in 2016, famously endorsed building a wall just like this one across the whole US-Mexico border. In Brownsville, Texas, Benji Haya reporting for DD India.
The US Supreme Court has agreed to hear former President Donald Trump's claim of immunity from prosecution for his role in trying to overturn the results of the 2020 election. This has given him a boost as he tries to delay criminal prosecutions while running for presidency this year. In a social media post later, Trump hailed the Supreme Court's decision to hear his immunity claim. The first former president to be criminally prosecuted, Donald Trump is the frontrunner for the Republican nomination to challenge Democrat Joe Biden in the November 5th election. Meanwhile, in a surprise move, a judge in the US state of Illinois has ordered the state election board to remove former US President Donald Trump's name from the ballot from Illinois' March 19th primary because of his role in the insurrection at the Capitol in January 2021. But the decision is delayed from taking effect in the light of an expected appeal by the former president. US Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin is due to speak to lawmakers in Congress today about his secret hospitalization. Although a review released this week by the Pentagon found there had been no deliberate attempt by Austin, the 3-page summary did not expand on what was already known about the timeline of his hospitalization, and lawmakers are set to ask him why he waited 3 days to alert top officials after he went to hospital in January for complications from prostate cancer surgery. France's Senate has adopted a bill to enshrine a woman's right to an abortion in the Constitution. The bill cleared a key hurdle for legislation promised by President Emmanuel Macron. 267 senators voted in favour of the bill, while 50 voted against it. With the latest modification in February 2022, access to abortion has been extended to 14 weeks of pregnancy from 12 weeks. To finalise the inscription, the National Assembly and the Senate have to hold a Congress in Versailles in which a 2/3 majority vote is needed. The latest now from the Israel-Hamas conflict, and families and supporters of hostages held by Hamas in Gaza continue their 4-day march to Jerusalem, which started on Wednesday. Demonstrators are calling for parties involved in ongoing negotiations for a truce in Gaza to, quote, close the deal, demanding the release of their loved ones. The march will wind through different Israeli towns before ending in Jerusalem on the 2nd of March.
You can see the march. All Israel is with us. All the nation, everybody. We need the cabinet. We need our prime minister. We need America, Qatar, Cairo, everybody who's in there to close the deal.
United Nations Human Rights Chief Volker Turk addressed the UN Human Rights Council session in Geneva on Thursday, where he accused all involved parties of committing war crimes in the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict.
Clear violations of international human rights and humanitarian laws, including war crimes and possibly other crimes under international law, have been committed by all parties.
That's all from me here in Washington. Back now to you, Shibendu, in New Delhi.
Thank you, Kate. Have a good day ahead. And we're heading for a short break, but still to come on DD India Global. Texas is battling its second largest wildfire in the state's history. And those, in fact, are the visuals of the wildfires in Texas. Besides, it's also the leap year. It's February 29th today. It's a leap year, 2024. February 29th, what makes it special?
Curious case of Julian Assange. The future of lunar exploration. And the biggest snake discovered in the Amazon rainforests. Watch Connecting the Dots every Friday at 8 p.m. IST on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Global. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. In a weekly briefing, MEA spokesperson said that on Indian civilians arriving in Maldives to operate advanced light helicopter in Malé, India's External Affairs Ministry has said that the batch will replace the existing personnel that were there until now operating on the platform.
Team of technical personnel to operate the advanced light helicopter at Gan has reached Maldives. It will replace the existing personnel that were until now operating this platform. So that is where we are.
On the issue of the 8th Indian national in Qatar who is still to come back to India, India's Ministry of External Affairs has said he has certain requirements to fulfill. He will return as and when those are completed.
All 8 Indian nationals who were involved in the Al Dhara global case, they have been released. 7 of them have returned to India. The 8th Indian national has certain requirements to fulfill. He will return as and when those are completed. So that is where we are on the 8th national.
Let's now take a look at other stories making news around the world. Texas is battling its second largest wildfires in the state's history as Smokehouse Creek fire scorched fields and destroyed neighborhoods across Panhandle. The wildfire has been raging northeast of Amarillo City since Monday, has blackened 850,000 acres of grasslands and timber. According to the Regional Forest Service, wildfire spread eastward across the border of Oklahoma. At least a person has been reported to have died in the blaze. As of Wednesday night, firefighters had managed to carve containment lines around just 3% of the blaze. Month of February has already broken several temperature records. Scientists say February of 2024 could have been the highest global average temperature due to use of fossil fuel and warming in the eastern Pacific Ocean. Pakistan's newly elected lower house of parliament met for the first time on Thursday, with freshly elected members taking oaths amid protest on the floor of the house by supporters of jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan. Soaring Bitcoin sets its biggest monthly jump since 2020 on Thursday. Bitcoin's monthly gain is more than 44%, largest jump in the last 3 years. The prospect of Federal Reserve delivering a series of rate cuts this year has fed investor appetite for higher yielding or more volatile assets. And this year there is an unusual date on your calendar, February 29th, meaning 2024 is a leap year. DD India's Tripti Tripathi helps us explore the cause behind such an anomaly.
Every 4 years, our calendars undergo a remarkable adjustment, adding an extra day to the month of February. But why? What prompts this temporal anomaly? At the heart of the matter lies the intricate dance between our planets and the sun. You see, Earth's orbit is not perfectly aligned with the passage of time. It takes approximately 365.25 days for Earth to complete its journey around the sun, not the neat 365 days we have come to expect. Long ago, the ancient civilizations grappled with this discrepancy, devising various methods to reconcile the solar year with the lunar and seasonal cycles. The Georgian calendar reforms of 1582 introduced the concept of the leap year, stipulating that years divisible by 4 would have an extra day added, that is, February the 29th. To check if a year is a leap year, one can divide the year by 4. If it is fully divisible by 4, it is a leap year. For example, the year 2012 is fully divisible by 4, hence it is a leap year. However, century years like 1900 or 2000 need to be divided by 400 to check whether they are leap years or not.
By the 16th century, it was felt that the number of days is not correctly accounted for and the calendar is going out of sync. And so there was a reform by Pope Gregory XIII, which brought in another extra twist, and that is if the year is divisible by 4, then it will have a leap year. But if it is divisible by 100, then it will not be a leap year.
This ingenious adjustment ensured that our calendars remain synchronized with the Earth's orbit, preserving the sanctity of timekeeping for generations to come.
Today, leap year serves not only as a practical adjustment to our calendars but also as a source of fascination and curiosity. So, as we mark this quadrennial event, let us marvel at the marvels of timekeeping and celebrate the beauty of a world's integrated dance through the cosmos. With camera person Shubham, this is Prasar Bharati for DD India.
So that's what makes February 29th special. So that's all in this edition of DD India Global. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also find us online at ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Global. Namaskar.